on Capitol Hill, the Senate is voting right now on a Democratic plan to fund the federal government. That is expected to fail, as is the following vote, which will be put on the floor by the Republican majority. That means the government shutdown will certainly continue through the weekend and possibly into next week. Joining us now, Democratic Senator from New Mexico, Martin Heinrich. And Senator, you know, the Republican bill will be up, or the Republican measure to fund the government will now be up, assuming that is going to fail. I assume you're a no vote. Do you know of any of your Democratic colleagues that will defect and vote yes for this?
I don't want to speak for my colleagues. What I know is that I'm unwilling to vote for a spending bill that increases health care premiums on working families in my state by $300, $400, $500 a month. That doesn't work. That math just simply doesn't work in the reality of where the economy is in my state at this point. People's health care costs have already gone up. The cost of energy's gone up. The tariffs are driving inflation in grocery cost all the way to home construction. My constituents cannot afford $300, $400, $500 a month in additional costs. They can't.
How long are you and your colleagues, the Democratic colleagues, going to hold out on this?
Well, we need a bill that actually works for working families. I mean, that's what this comes down to. So there are lots of places to negotiate around this. But if my Republican colleagues can afford to give a $3.4 trillion with a T dollar tax cut to Elon Musk and all of Trump's cabinet executives, then we can afford to hold down people's health care costs.
We just talked to a furloughed worker, and there's going to be a lot of pain out there. Is there a point at which it's a law of diminishing returns for Democrats that you take this too far and you prolong the pain for those government workers and people who are really impacted by this?
Well, what's clear here is the president doesn't feel that pain. I have one of the highest rates of federal workers in the country. And yet I have federal workers calling me and say, stand up to this White House. They are out of control. They don't feel our pain. And we need to get back to some sort of normalcy in this country.
Earlier today, Senate Majority Leader John Thune put the blame squarely on you and the Democrats. Let's listen to what he said.
They have taken hostage the federal government and, by extension, the American people, who are the only losers in this.
Is the health care battle the hill that Democrats should be dying on at this point?
I think the health care battle is central to working people in this country being able to function. And I'm not going to blame one side or the other for not having gotten to yes yet, but I will tell you we damn sure ought to be taking care of working people in this country, and we haven't done enough of that, and people cannot afford these incredible increases in their health insurance costs.
In your state, New Mexico, has been flagged by OMB Director Russ Vought to lose billions of dollars in green energy project funding. That could mean a lot of money that's not coming into your state. Is the pressure on right now?
Well, what I will tell you is when they take these projects off the grid, what they're really doing is increasing the cost of energy for all of us. And at a time when demand is going up astronomically on the grid, all of these actions that the president and Russ Vought and the Department of Energy are taking are making energy more expensive. We've seen electricity prices go up by 10% year over year. That is going to be eclipsed, I feel, in the next few months because they are sitting on projects, they are stopping permits, they're issuing stop work orders, and all of that is expressing itself in higher electricity costs.
You have called on the Interior Secretary to declare interior workers essential in order to just keep them paid during this shutdown. Why is that a priority to you?
It's a health and safety priority. I mean, we need people. People are going to access those public lands, whether they are technically open or not. And we need the people out there to make sure that the people who visit them are safe and that we're not doing permanent resource damage to those lands.
Our servicemen and women could be impacted by this shutdown, and one of the questions out there is, would you support temporary funding in order to ensure that those servicemen and women are paid during this shutdown?
I am not going to negotiate through the media. I'm going to negotiate with my colleagues. But one thing we're going to make sure is that working people in general are going to have access to health care.
I understand not to adjudicate that, but is there any indication that there may be some compromise, at least on that point, that our servicemen and women may get paid during this situation?
You know, I would love to see us do a 2-year budget, and so they weren't exposed to these kinds of budget battles at all. But I'm not going to speak out of turn here because I have to be able to negotiate directly with my Senate Republican appropriations colleagues.
I come back to the question for you. Do you believe we've already seen some Democrats join Republicans here in trying to reopen the government? Is there a point at which you yourself would consider doing that?
I think my entire caucus wants to reopen the government, and we voted to do that many times. But we're not going to throw working people under the bus to get that done. Like, we have to have some measure of solidarity here when people simply cannot afford the increases that the Republican budget bill will express in people's monthly health care premiums. My constituents can't afford that. They will lose houses, cars. There is going to be a lot of economic damage if we don't fix this now, and we're not going to get another chance at it.
So the reverse of my question, I guess, is have you spoken to any of your Republican colleagues that seem like they may or may not be willing to bend slightly when it comes to this health care debate?
I think there's more and more concern from my Republican colleagues that this issue hits just as deeply in their states as it does in blue states. This is not a red state, blue state problem. It is an American people problem. Working people in this country rely on the ACA premium tax credits. And these are people who are working 1-2 jobs. They simply cannot afford an extra $400 a month. I don't know where it would come from. It would probably go on a credit card. And that is simply not sustainable.
Why do you think this is the point, that the sticking point for Republicans? Have they given you a clear answer as to why particularly the ACA and the extended tax credits are coming up as a sticking point here?
Well, they spent a decade trying to reverse this health care system that we created with the Affordable Care Act. And so I think there are some of them who are just have a knee-jerk reaction to it. You know, what I would say is it's their constituents who are benefiting from this structure. Working people in this country, farmers, blue-collar workers, skilled trades, the people who have support and tax credits under this system are the people who are making this country run. This should be the priority, not some giant tax cut for Elon Musk and a bunch of billionaires.
And let's bring it home to your state. Earlier this week, you said President Trump's health care crisis will worsen for New Mexicans if Republicans allow ACA premium tax credits to expire by the end of the year. What are your primary concerns for your state and for all Americans as this shutdown continues to extend, it appears, at least into next week?
If we don't fix this, it will play a role in pushing our nation into a recession. It is of that magnitude because it will destabilize so many working families. We should avoid that. And let's be clear. The Republicans just spent $3.4 trillion on tax cuts for high-end earners. We're talking about $35 billion a year for working people. We can afford this. The President of the United States is suggesting we give $20 billion to Argentina so he can prop up a right-wing ally in South America who is actually undercutting our farmers right now. We can afford to fix this, and our priority should be working Americans.
Let's hope for the sake of all working Americans that there is some compromise reached at some point on the horizon. Senator Martin Heinrich, thank you very much for joining us on a busy day.
Thank you.